Welcome back, everyone, to another Hearts of Iron 4 series. And yes, it's Kaiserreich, obviously. Because why would I play Hearts of Iron if it wasn't for Kaiserreich? Well, I mean, there are many reasons to play Hearts of Iron that are not Kaiserreich, or, well, to be honest, not that many, but like, okay. That's more because of Hearts of Iron 4 rather than the amazing modding community. Anyways, so yeah, I've just not really been in the mood for Hearts of Iron in a long time, but now we're back, and we are here with the latest Kaiserreich update, which I have no idea when it released, by the way. I've just been told to play the left KMT. And yes, we are obviously playing as the left KMT, or as it's known, the Mingan Insurgency. Mingan meaning two provinces of China, Jiangxi and Fujian. Fujian is here, Jiangxi is here. Sorry, that's Hunan. Jiangxi is here. So, yeah, this is the area that is interested by our insurgency, and we're going to talk a hell of a lot more about it in the coming gameplay. We are going to use the formula of no pause, as I already did a couple times already for this channel, mostly just so it's, you know, a little bit more of a challenge. I have basically set up everything so that it's normal difficulty and no one has any buffs, unlike what I used to do, which was like buff AI countries, mostly just because like I don't want the gameplay to be annoying. And the game, I honestly am like finding the gameplay of Hearts of Iron 4, at least against the AI, not that interesting due to a lot of reasons. So yeah, that's why I'm not really relying on the AI being buffed for the difficulty. I'm relying on the fact that I've only barely played this country today, so I don't really know what I'm doing. And yeah, believe me, the politics of this tag that they've introduced are quite interesting. So there's a lot of landmines for me to step on, potentially, with the events and, you know, the political progression and stuff like that. And we're gonna talk a lot about it as we go along. But also, you know, the no pause aspect of it might be challenging. And hopefully, well, except obviously for, you know, it's Kaiserreich, so there's going to be like massive events that we need to at least skim through every once in a while. So those are going to pause the game. But I'm not going to use them for gameplay. And obviously, in the meantime, we're going to talk a hell of a lot about the real Chinese history that has inspired the Kaiserreich developers to make all of this. Anyways, you may recall that the left KMT used to spawn out of the League of 8 Provinces, which is a warlord state that controls the sort of eastern coastal provinces of China. And they have changed this a little bit, where now we start off actually as a government in exile. We are the government in exile, sort of hosted by France, I believe. Using the government in exile mechanic, we do have our own sort of core territory in the Mingan region, as it says, you know, the Mingan being Jiangxi, meaning west of the river province, which is this one, and the Fujian province, which is the coastal province that spawned a million sort of guerrilla movements in Chinese history, pirates and, you know, traders, emigration, and stuff like that. Certainly one of the most interesting Chinese provinces. Anyway, first event is the Year of the Rat. So obviously the new Chinese year. It's been 4 years since the unsuccessful Shanghai uprising across the eastern seaboard. Now, in this timeline, the Shanghai uprising happened in 1932 as opposed to 1927 in real life. We might get to talk about the Shanghai uprising when we talk about Shanghai later. But, you know, it's failed like in our timeline. And almost a decade since the collapse of the Northern Expedition, which was the attempt by the KMT, or the Chinese Nationalist Party, to launch an attack from its base in Canton or Guangzhou, all the way north to reunify the country and sort of establish a modern republic rather than a monarchy or a military dictatorship, as China is sort of subjugated by, as in this current timeline, and as it was in our timeline as well, here monarchy, in our timeline military dictatorship, or rather here both monarchy and military dictatorship. Anyways, like rats, the Kuomintang insurgents remain underground in hiding, festering in their squalor. So basically, after the failure of the uprising in the city and the sort of conventional military campaign, which in our timeline succeeded, but in this timeline failed, the KMT, like the Chinese communists in our timeline, fled the sort of open political struggle and was forced into insurgency in the rural countryside instead of taking over the cities as it originally intended. So from the Shanghai uprising, you have an insurgency in the countryside in the south. Now, in our timeline, this was obviously done by Mao and the Maoists. We're going to talk about that later. Let's go back to the Kaiserreich timeline. So they continue to survive nonetheless. The repeated encirclement campaign waged by the League of Eight Provinces and their German advisors have come to nil despite their material superiority because of endemic corruption, crafty insurgent leaders, and the sheer tenacity of the guerrillas. Basically, we are isolated in the mountain regions, but we are not suppressed yet. We have a people's government. However, unlike in our timeline where the insurgency that was in our timeline explicitly communist and, you know, directed by the Third, not really directed by the Third International, but, you know, explicitly aspired to, you know, Chinese Soviet Republic. In here, the insurgency is led by the nationalists and is only leftist in terms of a united front with the sort of farther left elements and the greater international. And instead of outright controlling a large area that in real life was centered around the city of Ruijin, which I believe is somewhere around here, south of Nanchang, which, yeah, in our timeline, the Chinese Soviet Republic did control a large area outright. And here we're just like still in the insurgency phase, you know, sort of trying to hide and stuff. So basically, here we need to choose who to turn to for, you know, sort of an initial strategy. We can choose to liaison with the Criminal League of 10 in Shanghai, who are former KMT turned into the underworld type of faction. Wealthy OCC benefactors in Guangzhou. Now, I have no idea what the OCC actually is. I'm sure an event at some point is going to explain it. But basically, overseas Chinese, I guess. Yeah, overseas Chinese type of deal. Who did, in our sort of timeline, support the KMT massively, especially in its early years under Sun Yat-sen. Or the urban syndicalist cells in Xiamen. Now, as you can see, this is going to increase the popularity of either totalism, social liberalism, or syndicalism. And here's where we go into the main mechanic of the left KMT in this new Kaiserreich update, is the fact that you have, well, really five main... you have a lot of factions, basically, and there's like a lot of the game mechanics sort of feed into how the political sort of power struggle is going to play out, including obviously the party popularity, but not just the party popularity. So it's actually really interesting. We're going to see that once we have sort of more established ourselves with the balance of power. The League of 10, or the criminal elements, are allied with some of the military, and they are totalist or national populist, I believe, as well. We have the social liberals, who are the sort of centrists in the Kuomintang, who want a liberal democracy on the sort of the model of Sun Yat-sen in his early years. Or we have the urban syndicalists, obviously the Chinese Syndicalist Party, who are the partners in the United Front, so obviously more towards the socialism side of things, and that's who we're going to pick, at least for right now. Now, I do not yet know who exactly I want to have come out on top of the power struggle. Obviously, one of the choices is the starting leader, who is Wang Jingwei, historical left KMT and later Japanese collaborationist leader, who is the sort of base choice for chairman. However, what's interesting about what they've done is that you don't just have like a one-to-one ratio from leaders or with leaders and ideologies. So it's not that Wang Jingwei is always the radical socialists. Wang Jingwei, as I think, can have 4 ideologies or 3. Depending on the path and the other sort of mechanics and how the different factions are balanced out. So I feel like that's very, very interesting. Anyway, with the fallout of the Zhegan Railway purchase, which is a purchase of a railway in the League of Eight Provinces. The League of Eight Provinces, just speed running through the lore, so it's not too boring for people who already know it. The League of Eight Provinces is very heavily under German influence after, obviously Kaiserreich. So the German Empire did win World War I, and they have their own sphere of influence in Asia that they're fighting with Japan over. And basically, in the League of Eight Provinces, you have that the governor is heavily reliant upon the Germans, especially for economic and military affairs. And by economic, we mean industrialization. And the Germans are investing heavily in railways across all of China. Now, this is mirroring something that did happen in real life, but in the waning years of the Qing dynasty, so in the early 1900s, where basically the foreign powers were investing in a bunch of railroads all over the place. And this being the sort of most modern symbol of modernity and means of transportation, they became sort of a symbol for the nationalist struggle when those foreign-funded railroads would be like seized or something, leading to the railway protection movement, which later developed into the Xinhai Revolution of 1911 indirectly. You have two sort of you have 3 formal political blocks that coalesce into the first Chinese Republican Revolution, that is in 1911. You have sort of provincial railway protection movements, so economic nationalists, essentially, without, this terminology is a bit too advanced for what they were using at the time, but, let's call them by that because that's what they were. You had the, Western-inspired nationalists, so the KMT. And you also had sort of a vague current of utopian thinkers that would later, along with the KMT, develop into Chinese socialism. Anyway, we have either the option of favoring totalism and social liberalism and gaining some more support, or getting some political power and favoring the radical socialists and the syndicalists. Now, I have seen that you get a lot of war, like normally I would have gone for the war support, but I've seen that you get a lot of war support later, so let's go for the political power. And you need to balance out, so that going back to the mechanics, you need to balance out in the events the bonuses that you want in terms of gameplay, which sometimes are not exactly the same as like the ideology that you think you're going for, which is really interesting. And also another thing that we're going to see is that the advisors all have a political alignment with one faction or another. So if we decide that, for instance, we do really want the political power gain and daily compliance gain from Gu Mengyu, but we do not want the RCA, and we're going to explain what the RCA is in a bit, we do not want the RCA to get stronger. Well, tough luck, because Gu Mengyu is affiliated with the RCA. So if you want to play more politically focused, maybe you are going to want to not strengthen a faction by appointing an advisor that's belonging to that faction, which is really interesting to me, because that's how it should be. Anyway, so we have the Brewing Tempest, because obviously the railway unrest, that's because they say basically the Germans are encroaching upon... Let's see. Yeah, okay. You should be hearing me over the music rather nicely, because the Germans are encroaching upon the railways in the League of Eight Provinces, and so you have anti-German sort of nationalist sentiment brewing, protests and strikes and stuff. Obviously, this means that we are going to need to take advantage of this, and we either have 2 paths to take. So basically, we can either choose to be sort of more along the lines of the Jiangxi side of the insurgency in the countryside, or the general strike in Fujian. Now, this is also going to change where the resistance is going to be higher. So this is essentially either a sort of city-based coastal strategy or an internal countryside-based strategy. Now, It also seems like the upper option is favorable to the social democracy, but also the pink text tells me that it's going to be probably about the Mingan provisional government, which, let's get right into it, is led by Song Qinling, who was the widow of Sun Yat-sen, and is another one, the other main sort of candidate for leadership. And I'm thinking I want to go for Song Qinling, but I'm not sure. And there's also 2 other leaders, I think, or maybe 3 other leaders for the sort of Chinese Republic that's going to spawn out of this. And yeah, basically the 2 main factions that everything is subdivided into, or divided into, and then there's further subdivisions along those factions, are the RCA, which is pro Wang Jingwei, and Wang Jingwei currently is in Paris, he's not in China. Or the, I believe, Action Committee, and the RCA is the Revolutionary Comrade Association, or the, I believe, Action Committee, or People's Action Committee, or one of these things. We're going to see the denomination in a bit. Who are the sort of partisans of Song Qinling, who are actually in the insurgent zone, or sort of running the revolutionary government. Now, in this case, we want our divisions to spawn near Xiamen, I believe, because this is going to allow us to more easily capture Xiamen, and we're going to have a mission to take that, like, within a certain, time period, once the once the uprising begins. So we definitely want to take a tactical sort of choice, even though I think I want to go for Song Qinling, but again, I'm not 100% more, it's more like 70%, 30%. I'm 70% sure that I want to favor Song Qinling in the long term. And see what paths she has, which, as far as I read, were really interesting. Anyway, Wuhu massacre. So Wuhu is a city between Nanjing and Nanchang, near Nanjing, and there's a massacre. Obviously, a bunch of stuff. Many of the protesters shout, Northern in particular. For the Kuomintang, the moment is nigh. The powder keg has been set off, and not simply one of anti-concessionism. A propaganda offensive has already gone underway, casting them as heroes in China's hour of need. But there are many promises in the air, and the Kuomintang are hardly the only ones making them. Either moderate our positions for social liberalism, or harden the positions. We're obviously going to harden our positions. There might be a chance I go for totalism. Who knows? Or totalism or national national populism. That path also seems really interesting. And also the 4th path that I know of, which is the Kun Jinan. Hold on, I'm retarded. Where is Jinan? Oh yeah, in Shandong. Oh. Oh, looks like we're gonna have a big old Qing government. Huh. Well, I hope that the Shandong clique decides to attack us on their own so that we don't need to fight the Qing government to take them. Because we definitely don't want the Qing government to get too strong, because if the Qing government gets really, really strong, then, well, killing them is going to be difficult despite the normal difficulty. Anyways, yeah, that's unfortunate. I really love, obviously, the sort of standard leader of Shandong, who is... was Zhang Zongchang. Oh, we have some... Oh, really? Russian Civil War? Huh. Oh, that's a giant fucking Russian Socialist Republic. Holy moly. They made them a lot bigger than they used to be. Huh. We have Dmitry Romanov and Oktyabristi on the Russian Republican side. On the whites, as you may. And the reds... I really despise that flag, but whatever. Anyway, we have Black Monday, obviously. We can either consolidate our forces or rush for a quick offensive, and I believe that that's definitely what we want. The quick offensive is captained by Deng Yanda, who is a figure that I know nothing about in terms of historical sort of importance, so we're going to need to look him up after this session of recording. Don't know how many episodes I'm going to record in this session. Yeah, I have no idea who he is, but he seems very, very important to this path for sure, because Deng Yangda is the main sort of military commander in the insurgent zone, a bit like Zhu De was for the sort of Maoists, or Pang Dehuai, but definitely Zhu De earlier on. And yeah, we definitely want the sort of quick offensive doctrine to be embraced. Some of these also have there goes the Austrian Empire. Some of these also have in-game effects down the line, as you might imagine. Now, we're definitely going to want a lot of the Smiling Tiger downed. Oh yeah, that's so Sun Changfang, the leader of the League of Eight Provinces and historical warlord of the sort of lower Yangtze area, has been shot and is going to die soon. And yeah, here are the choices between either sort of having all of our units in the fight at once, or having a mobile reserve, which is going to provide us with 500 guns and 20 command power. But I definitely want one extra legion of irregulars. I don't think that's going to be worth 500 infantry equipment, but, you know, the extra men on the field for the early fight is going to be useful. And now that the illusion of Qing hegemony shatters, because basically the League of Eight Provinces is a civil war, and well, a lot of the areas around China are going to start to have civil wars, and their governments are going to forswear allegiance, even nominal allegiance that they had towards the central government. So the warlord era has once again intensified in China. So here we go. We start off with this force that we have going on. I believe we want these guys to be under Ye Ting, revolutionary general, who has the urban assault trait. And yeah, that is definitely something that we want to do to take the city of Xiamen as soon as possible. Because the insurgency has sort of transformed into a outright uprising, let's get ourselves some offensive doctrines. And we want to capture as much territory as possible while the AI is sort of eeping. While the AI is eeping. We want as much control of Minho province as possible. We have control of Jianan province because now we have a bunch of mechanics of the League War. Anyway, let's read this event because it's rather inspiring and important as it may. The late Dr. Sun Yat-sen never gave up that after all those years, having been driven into exile more times than he can count, he carried with him an undying passion and love for his country, and his dreams for the national revolution are now passed down to us. Indeed, it was with this fervor that we launched the Northern Expedition, and it was only due to the intervention of the German imperialists that such dreams came to an end. Yet, like the great teacher, we never gave up as well. For years we have bided our time, reviving the revolutionary spirit that blazed fiercely throughout 1924, and preparing ourselves for the day of liberation. Now as Germany's capitalist order falters because of the Black Monday economic crisis, and duly authority has descended into chaos, it is our opportune moment to strike. We shall strike hard and fight fiercely. Our goal is the complete consolidation of China's eastern seaboard under revolutionary authority. Only then can the dreams of a second northern expedition and national unification be achieved. It won't be easy, but as the words on Huangpu's gate reminded many of our dear veterans, if you fear death, leave at once. Cast away death and doubts, and commit yourself to the duty of national salvation. So, Huangpu, it was the military academy in Guangzhou, Huangpu being the river, or sorry, an island in the Pearl River that goes through Guangzhou, that trained many of the sort of revolutionary soldiers that fought in the Chinese Revolution on both the nationalist and the communist side in our timeline, and on this timeline, obviously, our side. So we have a morale mechanic. We need to make sure that our morale does not sort of reach too low, or else it's going to be bad for us. And our morale also allows us to, as you can see, raise men and scavenge for supplies and do all sorts of stuff. We have some missions. We need to secure Fujian province. We need to secure Gannan prefecture, whereas Gannan is to the west here in Jiangxi province. And if we do that, we get rifles and stability. And if we get access to the sea, we're going to get a pretty important event. So yeah, let's start straight off the bat. Fujian, let's make war. Anyway, we start off with, I believe, 10 divisions. Yeah, 10 divisions in total, but we're going to get volunteers from the International, which is obviously rather good. Now, we want Xiamen to fall as soon as possible. We want it to fall as soon as possible. We want to encircle it and, yeah, take it within 14 days because, yeah, getting access to the sea is rather important. We get infantry equipment, and we get the event, the return of the Central Committee, which is going to be rather important. Now, soon enough, we're going to... Oh, looks like there is a enemy unit over here in Quanzhou. So that's an encirclement for us. And we obviously want to capture as much territory as possible. The Liangwang clique has gone to peace, and now they're under Chen Jiuming, historical Chinese Republican leader and warlord, one of the weirdest warlords for sure in Chinese history. And we have peace with the Hunan clique as well, who are now sort of a bastion of weird Chinese liberalism that I don't really have time to explain, and hopefully we're not going to need to explain. Xiamen is going to fall, and that is going to be certainly within the 14 days. And now let's take out the enemies in Quanzhou. Huh, I wonder where all the army of the League of Eight Provinces, or the Nanjing clique, is. Oh, I guess they just got encircled or cut off by the Anqing clique. That is, like, incredibly lucky. This did not happen the last time that I played, and I did need to, like, actually fight. Now, we cannot break through the actual infantry that they have on the Nanshan, Hangzhou, Shanghai Railway in the mountains right now, because we only have at the moment... basically militia. Now, we are going to have real soldiers, but only once we appeal for the support of the International, which is going to happen, and once we raise soldiers, yeah, we want the intelligence for sure. Once we raise some soldiers from captured areas, actually, let's secure control of Minho province. And once the Central Committee returns, which hopefully is going to happen rather soon, because once the Central Committee returns, they're going to bring with them a Western-trained division equipped with artillery, which is going to be our best unit for a while. So that's why we needed to take Xiamen as early as possible. Anyway, we can at least fix these guys where they are and take a bunch of territory to their flank, because it doesn't seem like a lot of enemy units are around this area. We obviously are not going to be able to take Nanjing within the time limit of the first mission, and our morale is going to be reduced by 8. But that's fine, because currently our morale is at 100%. So obviously, you know, obviously no need to really worry about our morale at all. All right. We can raise men and gather supplies everywhere that we go. Now, the morale mechanic, once we actually win our insurgency, is not going to be that important, so we should definitely we should definitely abuse it as much as possible. Anyways, our first men have been raised, and they are the real sort of nationalist units. And here comes the Central Committee again. So Wang Jingwei and the Central Committee of the KMT has returned, and they're reunited with the Mingan Provisional Government. And I think this is a good time to end the first episode. And I'm certainly gonna record the next one right after this one, but it's it's been 30 minutes, so that's the first episode gone. We have established our insurgency, and we are about to head forth and sort of head north and try to secure Nanjing, which is hopefully is going to happen in the next episode. So until then, I want to thank y'all for watching. Hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.